What are you doing?
Hmm?
What are you doing?
Nothing. Me? Just hanging around.
Hello guys and welcome to a new video, and today I'll be talking about one of the most underrated gunsmith stats, the sprint to fire delay. So first of all, I'll explain what sprint to fire delay is and how it affects your ping. And after that, we'll watch an intense gameplay full of non-stop action. I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get started. So the sprint to fire delay is one of the stats you see when you make a gunsmith build. But many players decide to ignore it, mainly because they don't know what it means or what it does. And to explain it, I'll use this clip as an example. So I was running around Alcatraz minding my own business, and all of a sudden I see two enemies in front of me and I decided to engage. So this is the moment I pressed the shooting button. As you can see, it started moving. But notice that the gun didn't shoot instantly. It took around 200 milliseconds to start shooting. And that's because of the sprint to fire delay. It's basically the delay you get between you pressing the shooting button and when the gun actually starts shooting after sprinting. And it's different for each gun. So as we saw, the Mac 10 had 200 milliseconds delay compared to the QQ9, for example, which has less delay of 100 milliseconds only. Now let's answer the second question. How does sprint to fire delay affect your ping? And to answer this question, we'll use the PPSH as an example. And we'll make two gunsmith builds for this gun. The first one is a hipfire build full of hipfire attachments. And if we check the sprint to fire delay in this build, we can see it's 120 milliseconds. As for the second build, we'll add as many sprint to fire delay attachments as possible. And now if we check the sprint to fire delay, you can see that it went down to 42 milliseconds only. Now both these builds have the exact same killing time, and obviously the killing time depends on many things, like the range and which body part you hit and so on. But just for an example, let's say it's a 600 milliseconds killing time. Then let's say you have a ping of 90 milliseconds. And in case you don't know, the ping affects the game response time. And in this case, it takes 90 milliseconds for your actions to register, which means it takes 90 milliseconds for your shots to actually hit the target and start damaging the enemy. And finally, we have the sprint to fire delay. So as we mentioned earlier, the hipfire build has 120 milliseconds delay, while the sprint to fire delay build has 42 milliseconds only. And all these things that I mentioned, the killing time, the ping, the sprint to fire delay, they all contribute to the real total killing time, which is 110 milliseconds for the hipfire build and 732 milliseconds for the sprint to fire delay build, which means that the sprint to fire delay kills 78 milliseconds faster than the hipfire build. So in other words, adding sprint to fire delay attachments basically compensates for your high ping when it comes to the killing time. And finally, keep in mind that it's called sprint to fire delay for a reason, because you only get this delay when you shoot after sprinting. So notice right here that as soon as I press the shooting button, the bullets come out right away without any delay. Why? Because I'm standing still and I'm not moving. There's also a trick that some players use to avoid sprint to fire delay. So they pull the joystick all the way to the back right before engaging with the enemy, which cancels the sprint. And therefore, there won't be any sprint to fire delay if you're not sprinting. But this is easier said than done, as it requires some practice. I hope it wasn't complicated, and I hope you got the idea. I don't really recommend going for a full sprint to fire delay builds. It's always best to find a good balance. But now that you understand the importance of sprint to fire delay, then you can make different builds based on your ping and your playstyle. Now that we're done with the explanation, let's move on to the gameplay. And for this one, I'll be using the PPSH. A, because it's one of my favorite guns this season, and B, because it received a sprint to fire delay buff, as it went from 170 milliseconds to 120 milliseconds. I hope you guys enjoy.
Enemy eliminated.
Your teammate has been killed. System online. Your teammate has been... Your teammate teammate has been killed. Trap deployed.
Engaging.
Airdrop has been delivered.
The enemy. Enemy down. Ammo here. Enemy eliminated.
Half of the teams are eliminated. Down to the last 5 teams.
Enemy eliminated.
Further collapse expected. Travel to indicated safe zone. Your teammate has been killed.
The airdrop is coming.
I really wanted to continue fighting in that building, but there was so much going on. Enemies inside the house, on top of the house, inside the other house, and even more dropping from the sky. So I played it safe and I healed up. But sadly, by the time I was done, most of these enemies already killed each other. And I ended up missing on many kills.
The airdrop is coming.
Trap deployed. Your teammate has been killed. Net call. Major instability detected. Safe zone evac orders are in effect.
The airdrop is coming.
Trap deployed. Airdrop has been delivered. Only 2 teams left. Getting close to victory. Circle collapse imminent. Get to
The
safety.
airdrop is coming.
Careful. Poltergeist is active. Airdrop has been delivered.
I hope you guys find this video useful and I hope you enjoyed the gameplay. And if you did, then kindly leave a like on your way out. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.
Engaging the enemies. Enemy eliminated.
Nani bro, nani bro. Yeah.